The calendar is shifting a little bit, folks. We're getting into NFL training camp season. I've got some good news and rumors to get through here. Big-time contract yesterday for the defending Offensive Player of the Year. Todd Gurley agreed to a 4-year extension worth $60 million, $45 million in guaranteed money, largest ever for a running back. Few running backs are making this kind of money, ladies and gentlemen. And the typical average for veterans is just a shade over $18 million guaranteed, for a little context there. So Gurley had 2 years on his existing deal. Now he's tied through 2023. Great move for the LA Rams, because if they want sustained success on the offensive side, I think you have to build it around Todd Gurley. Had a league-best 2,093 yards from scrimmage last year. Obviously very important to that side of the ball. And then you couple the fact that you have Jared Goff getting a lot better at quarterback. He really took a step forward last season. Cooper Kupp is there as well. Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, whom the Rams acquired via a trade with the New England Patriots. Now there's another running back out there who kind of wants a lot of money, and he hasn't gotten it yet, from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Le'Veon Bell took to Twitter and said that. LOL, and people thought I was tripping, ellipses. So, yeah, he's waiting for a deal. And the Pittsburgh Steelers and GM Kevin Colbert have absolutely failed Le'Veon Bell in the process of trying to get that long-term deal done. As you know, the July 16th deadline has passed. So Bell has to play on that franchise tag there. That is some $14 million, which is around what he's looking for on an annual basis. So Le'Veon Bell giving his 2 cents about the Todd Gurley extension there. By the way, the Rams have been shelling out a lot of money recently, but not for Aaron Donald yet. So keep that in mind, because we may have to wait a little longer for that contract extension to go down. Gurley, check. Brandon Cooks, check. We'll see if Donald is on the horizon. All right, next up on the list here are the NFL owners avoiding national anthem talk. So Catherine Terrell of ESPN.com reported that NFL owners were, quote, instructed to avoid any national anthem discussion in the public sphere. Now, when asked about the national anthem policy, Bengals owner Mike Brown said, quote, "We're instructed to stand down." Also saying, "I'm not going to sit here and stir the pot. They don't want to hear from me right now." And the reasoning behind this is probably the fact that the NFL owners and the NFL in general, along with the NFLPA, is currently negotiating a solution to the national anthem policy, which previously stated that players were required to stand for the flag during the anthem, or they had the option to stay in the locker room. But kneeling resulted in a fine for the team, and then the team could trickle down that fine to the respective players. So that's probably why these NFL owners were instructed to not say anything. Now, for you guys, I always like to ask about this topic: what should the solution be? What is your solution to the national anthem debate? Just keep them all in the locker room? Don't televise the national anthem at all, and maybe you can avoid some of the visuals that way? Or perhaps you give the players the free will to kneel during the anthem if they so choose. Let me know in comments. I want to hear from you guys. Usually I get some interesting responses here, usually in paragraph form, about this topic, because it is certainly polarizing and a lot of people have opinions out there. But as we stand right now, the national anthem policy has been put on hold as the NFLPA and the NFL owners kind of go through their negotiations. So, of course, I'll have more updates on what is a very intriguing storyline as we get closer to week 1 of the NFL season. How about this? Malcolm Mitchell could be traded. That is the report out there. Tom Pelissero of NFL Network reported the Patriots are looking to trade Malcolm Mitchell as training camp is upon us here. Now, Mitchell missed the entire 2017 due to injury, placed on injured reserve before week 1. You can't forget that 2016 rookie campaign where he had 32 catches, including 6 catches in Super Bowl 51, 401 yards, 4 touchdowns to his credit. And he also reportedly underwent a procedure quite recently on Monday to, quote, determine the extent and cause of discomfort in his knee. Now, we're no longer wondering why Malcolm Mitchell is on the trade block. So without Mitchell, the Patriots entered 2018 with a somewhat thin depth chart, assuming if Mitchell is traded. You have Hogan, you have Matthews, and then there's a drop-off because Julian Edelman has his 4-game suspension to go through. And this is a big reason why, folks, I think Des Bryant should go to the New England Patriots. There's just nobody there on that offensive side outside of Gronk and outside a really deep running back core. But if you go to the wide receiver position, you're just, That's really all I can say. All right, so from one wide receiver to another, perhaps the best wide receiver in the NFL, Julio Jones is holding out, folks, skipping training camp as we stand due to ongoing contract issues. So the Falcons don't want to give Julio Jones a contract extension right now. The team said they would work to redo his contract after the 2018 season. Falcons owner Arthur Blank told The Athletic the team wants to ensure Jones remains in Atlanta for the rest of his career, and they better figure it out, or else Julio Jones will eventually go test the open waters down the line. Now, Jones still has 3 years left on his deal, with $34.4 million remaining. His deal is a 5-year, $71.25 million contract. And apparently, Julio Jones thinks he's worth more than that, and he has every right to say that. But if you want to talk about money, Jones could be fined $40,000 each day he skips camp. Now, Ian Rappaport said Jones is comfortable skipping training camp entirely. And Jones could keep the holdout going perhaps into the regular season if he really wants to. He'd lose some $617 million a week and put the Falcons obviously in a tough position there as Super Bowl contenders. But Calvin Ridley fantasy football owners out there, ding, 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 wide receiver number 1 for the Atlanta Falcons perhaps if Julio Jones continues to hold out. Keep that in mind. All right, so the Los Angeles Rams had a big-time offseason, getting the likes of Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters, of course, and Ndamukong Suh. Jared Goff recently talked about the big-time expectations here for the Rams, and he says the team can't get distracted by the outside labels. And Goff also went on to say, I think you see every year there are teams that get that hype and that type of label and often fall short, and you wonder why. Also said, we've got all the pieces, we just need to put it together. Yeah, he's right, folks. We hear about it year in and year out, how a team wins the offseason, but can they convert winning the offseason into being a successful product on the green grass? And that's the question that we are wondering here about the Los Angeles Rams. And look, everybody likes to point to the whole dream team deal from the years past with the Philadelphia Eagles. That team does not compare to the talent on the Los Angeles Rams. They have all the pieces on the offensive side. They look really solid. And then the defense could have perhaps the best secondary in the National Football League with Peters, with Talib, John Johnson at safety, LaMarcus Joyner at safety as well, one of the elite players at that position that we never really talk about. So I guess you could still have that ounce of caution in regards to the LA Rams and whether or not they can actually contend in the NFL. But you could say that about a few teams out there that are getting a lot of hype. Talking about the San Francisco 49ers, talking about the Tennessee Titans, talking about the Houston Texans, and the Los Angeles Chargers as well. So are the Rams overrated? Type 3 for yes, type 4 for no in comments. I see Junior Ventura typing in 4. I see a couple other comments typing in 4 as well. We'll see what happens. But I think the Rams are going to be a very legit Super Bowl 53 contender just because of that defense. Like, yeah, the offense is really good. Yeah, they have Todd Gurley. But when you have Donald and Suh on that front line and an elite secondary that they have, that's all I need to tell myself, okay, this team is going to be perhaps a top 2 seed in the NFC. Hit me up in comments. Want to hear from you. Alan chiming in. We got Jordan chiming in. I'll give you guys shout-outs when you comment. Speaking of the Chargers, by the way, perhaps they are re-signing Antonio Gates. Josina Anderson of ESPN reported the Chargers want to re-sign Gates before training camp. So back in April, that really wasn't part of their plans. They were ready to move on from the Antonio Gates era, but then Hunter Henry suffered a season-ending injury. And then at that point, if you're Chargers leadership, you're like, okay, well, maybe we have to go out and sign Antonio Gates at some point because he knows the system. He knows Phillip Rivers like the back of his hand. And you know Phillip Rivers is pushing for Gates to sign with the Chargers. Now, the buzz with Gates is that it's Chargers or bust. So if he does not get signed by LA, he's probably going to retire because I think he is of the mindset that he doesn't want to learn a new offense. He doesn't want a change of scenery. He's comfortable out there in California, and moving somewhere else would be too much of a change for a guy who's getting up there in age and has certainly lost a few steps out there when running routes, but he's still a viable red zone option. Just from a chemistry standpoint, I think it makes a lot of sense for Phillip Rivers to sign, or not Phillip Rivers, of course, but the Chargers to sign Antonio Gates and for his services to be there for Phillip. We shall see if that actually comes to fruition. All right, next up on the list, this guy lives on the injury report, and here he is again. Ziggy Ansah put on the PUP list before training camp. Now, that is not like the regular season PUP list when you miss the first 6 games and then you reevaluate things. You could be taken off this list during training camp at any point. So for Ziggy Ansah here, perhaps it's more of a precautionary move on the part of the Detroit Lions. Now, the injury was not specified, but he has dealt with knee problems, ankle problems, back issues. If you touch any part of yourself, most likely Ziggy Ansah has been on the injury report because of that problem, because of that body part. So Ansah, of course, received the franchise tag this offseason. Didn't get that long-term deal done, was not expected to happen. He's going to make $17 million this year playing on that defensive line for the Detroit Lions. A player who really spurted, I guess you could say, towards the end of the season, racking up a good amount of sacks there. All right, you guys are watching the Cam Rogers Show presented by AutoList. If you're looking for a new or used car out there and you're tired of browsing a million sites, be sure to go to Autolist.com and download their top-rated mobile app for iPhone or Android today. It is really a beautiful website, really fun app as well, really easy. So, folks, get it done. All right, next up on the list, Sam Darnold, J.K. Earl Thomas, high price for him via a trade. That is the report out there. So Josina Anderson of ESPN is saying that Seattle wants a big-time price tag in regards to Earl Thomas. Now, Seahawks and Cowboys have discussed a trade, but obviously not likely at this point. If it were to go down, it probably would have happened during the draft, to be honest with you. Thomas, of course, entering the last year of his 4-year, $40 million contract. And you all know of last season when Earl Thomas told Jason Garrett, come get me if the Cowboys get the chance and all of that stuff. And we know that Earl Thomas really likes the Dallas Cowboys. I just think Earl Thomas wants money, guys. I don't think his motivation is to go to Dallas per se. I think he is of the mindset that I deserve to get paid. I deserve security because I am one of the elite safeties in the NFL. And if you don't want to give me that security now, then trade me away to a team that will. And that team, in his eyes, is the Dallas Cowboys. So that's kind of my mindset of Earl Thomas's mindset, if you will. In regards to, it's not like he just wants a trade tomorrow. He just wants money. He just wants security. If you go back to the Pro Bowl, he was actually talking to media members, and he was saying that, yeah, I might hold out because I want security. I want a contract. And so as we stand, he's with the Seattle Seahawks. Will Seattle trade Earl Thomas this summer? Type Y for yes in comments. Type N for no. And I'll say this. I think he plays on Seattle this season. I think he drags his feet a little bit here and eventually gets that contract that he wants. I don't think he actually gets traded. I don't see that going down. All right, next up on the list, I guess I foreshadowed at it. Sam Darnold not present here at training camp for the New York Jets. So the rookies report earlier than the veterans. A lot of the veterans are reporting today. A couple days ago, rookies were reporting for the Jets and many other teams out there, and Darnold was not present. Now, Darnold still hasn't reached an agreement with the Jets, and reports out there, he's estimated to collect $20.3 million in a signing bonus, maybe make $30.5 million over 4 years as the number 3 overall selection there to the New York Jets. Now, Rappaport said that the absence for Darnold is not necessarily concerning because, like I said, today is the day for veterans to show up. So the fact that Darnold did not show up for the rookie portion, if you will, it's not the most alarming thing in the world. By the way, Darnold showed up for rookie minicamp back in May. So it's not like this guy is frustrated with where things stand. I think he and the Jets leadership, GM Mike McGagnon there, will figure it out. So no worries there. Meanwhile, this rookie quarterback, the number 1 overall selection, Baker Mayfield, officially signed his deal with the Cleveland Browns. It's a 4-year contract worth $32.68 million. And within that, I guess you could say, he earned a $21.85 million signing bonus. So with Mayfield signed now, the Browns only need to sign Mr. Denzel Ward to wrap up their entire draft class. As far as the quarterback battle is concerned here, I think it's firmly in the hands of Tyrod Taylor to be the guy. Now, Hugh Jackson has been very vocal that Tyrod Taylor will be the Week 1 starter. Kind of like how Steve Wilks has been very vocal that Sam Bradford's going to be the Week 1 starter. And so I think Tyrod Taylor will be the starter to start the regular season. But maybe at some point, Baker Mayfield sees the football field, because I have been saying on this very program that I think Baker Mayfield is the most NFL-ready, the most polished quarterback out of this entire draft class. It's a little close between Baker and Josh Rosen. Then there's a gap, and then it's a few raw prospects. I think Lamar Jackson is still very raw. Sam Darnold is still very raw as well. Josh Allen is probably the rawest among all of them, to be honest with you. So Baker Mayfield, good news for him. He's got his rookie deal cemented with the Cleveland Browns.